hustling. I won't be defined by your dreams, committed to my goals, yeah. Gotta do my own thing, keep up the hustling.
Hi, welcome to Hustleburg. This podcast is all about small business in Saint Petersburg, Florida. How the business owners got started, how they built their business, and how they serve our community. I'm Brett Bittner, and I'm the host of Hustleburg, and I started Beyond Your Side Hustle, a marketing firm where we help budding entrepreneurs go beyond their side hustles and ditch their 9-to-5s. As the founder of a small business here in St. Pete myself, I love meeting and talking with fellow small business owners. Lucky for you, I also like to record those conversations for you to listen to. If you find anything of value in this episode, I encourage you to subscribe to the podcast, because there are probably more nuggets in other episodes, both past and upcoming. It would also be great if you rate and review the episode to let us know what you got out of the conversation. If you have a question about marketing, building your brand, or operating your small business that you'd like to have answered on a Q&A episode, please visit beyondyoursideHustle.com/podcast question to submit it. On this episode of Hustleburg, I had the good fortune to speak with Sara Fludd from Pop Goes the Waffle. You may only know them as a food truck, but they have so much more, and we're going to get right into that in the interview where we talk about the waffle empire that Sara is working to create. You can find them online at popgoesthewaffle.com and check out the show notes and listen to the rest of the interview to hear where you can connect with them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Enjoy! So, Sara, why waffles?
I guess the question is, why not waffles? You know, waffles have always been a little bit more special than pancakes. Like, you know, pancakes could be every weekend when you were a kid, but waffles were always like a special occasion kind of breakfast for me at home. So that's when I fell in love with waffles as a kid, back in the days of being able to get Eggo waffles. And I've just been obsessed with them ever since.
So what does that mean for you with Pop Goes the Waffle? You have a variety of waffle making avenues with the entirety that is the waffle empire of Pop Goes the Waffle. Tell us a little bit more about what it is that you do, and so we can kind of see where it all came from with the Eggo waffles from when you were younger.
Right. So it began with the love of Eggo waffles. And then later in life, after I got married and had a child, we got a waffle maker, and we lived in Connecticut. So our rule was every snow day, I would make a new waffle recipe. So the Northeast has lots of snow days. So I ended up with about 50 waffle recipes. And we used to just joke like, okay, we should do a waffle business. I was like, sure, nobody's doing that. I haven't seen anyone doing a waffle business. So when we moved to Florida in 2017, we started putting that plan into place. And I was ready to launch with just doing the waffle pops, which are waffles on a stick. And then Hurricane Irma came along and put everything off course a little bit as far as our food truck being complete. So it was delayed by about 6 to 8 months. And during that time, I discovered the Liège waffle, which is the dough-based waffle from Belgium, which has the pearl sugar that's baked into it. So since the food truck wasn't ready yet, I started producing the Liège waffles, and fortunately was very, able to get into some local businesses. Like Kawa Coffee was our first wholesale partner. And so instead of launching a food truck, I initially launched a wholesale waffle business until the food truck was ready. So we started with the Liège waffles. Then we got the food truck and started doing the waffle pops with that. Let me add in, before the truck was done, we also started doing pop-ups around town at Royal Palm Market, Corey Avenue Market, different places where we could take a tent and take our waffle irons. So we started introducing the community to what a waffle pop is. That's what everyone said. And the great thing that I like is even if people didn't purchase, they would come over and look and go, I've never seen anything like this. This is amazing. So I felt like the feedback we were getting from the community was a positive sign that we could actually make a go of this. And we did.
So you guys were starting out with pop-up events before you even had the food truck, introducing people to what it is that you do. And were you able to utilize that to kind of figure out who your customer is as a result? Because you could kind of see who they were at these pop-up events before you even had the truck?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So we did see, and actually, funny you should mention that. So different events brought different types of customers and different times a day. early morning events like Cray Avenue, we were seeing lots of families and lots of little kids, and we could see what kind of menu items did better for them, like our unicorn waffle with fruity pebbles. Like kids want to see lots of toppings, lots of colorful options. When we were doing the evening events, we were seeing more millennial, Gen Z, people looking for more like a decadent dessert or a take home option. So that gave us a lot of information about how we wanted to mold our menu to fit the time of day and the time of event that we were going to be going to.
So how was it that this became what you do? We're moving to Florida in 2017 and we have all these waffle recipes. Is it just that just came together? Was there some sort of background that you had, either you or someone in your family that helped push this to the forefront? How did all of this come to be?
I'm a serial entrepreneur. Unfortunately, many of these were short lived or did not do as well. But since I got out of college, I was always like, I'm going to have a 9 to 5 and I'm going to have a side hustle. Like, I want to always be doing something that's just me, because if I'm not having as much fun or as much fulfillment as I like in my day job, I wanted to do something that I enjoyed for me. So in coming to Florida, part of the move when we were looking for places to relocate, and Florida was in the top 3, we were looking for cities that were local friendly, small business friendly. And of course, St. Pete really did top the list as far as that goes, as being support to local businesses. By the time we were preparing to move, I had narrowed it down to either doing a pie shop, which was one of my other big hobbies, because I did dessert catering for several years in Connecticut. So I was like, okay, there's not any pies there. Maybe I'll do a pie shop. But then when we got here and we got to see what kind of desserts were here and what would be a better fit, we just felt like the waffles were the better way to go with a food truck versus setting up a brick and mortar, which would be needed. So that's really how we made the decision. Once we sat down and looked at the spreadsheet, I was like, I feel a little risk averse. And I think going with the food truck and seeing how that plays out is the better way to go.
Now, you're 3 years into this journey. What is the most important lesson that you've learned thus far, having run Pop Goes the Waffle in all of its aspects?
The most important thing I've learned is that I don't have to have all the answers. So analysis paralysis is a situation when I get in and I can't decide and I have 1,000 ideas running through my head and I'm like, I can't do that. For example, with the food truck, I was like, I can't do this. I don't know anything about generators. Like, what do I know about generators? I don't know how to drive a truck. Like, all those things that I don't know how to do would paralyze me. So what I've learned, the most important thing is there are always people out there who have the answers, whether that's through networking, whether that's through me picking up the phone and calling a local business owner that may have already gone through this and getting some feedback from them, reaching out to other people who make waffles on Instagram. That was like one of my first things. Like Waffle Wagon is in West Palm. I've got friends that are in Waffles in Rhode Island and New York. And we started a group where we could like share information. So I started to get away from that. I have to know all the answers, which isn't true. You just have to know where to find the people that have the answers. So I think the biggest learning curve for me is playing to my strengths. Like I have a skill set that I'm very comfortable with and I know that I can do very well. But I know that I am not a CPA. So guess what? I've outsourced that.
Absolutely.
I know I'm also not a mechanic. So I have, so it's like, here are the things I do well. Here are the things I can't do. And I'm not going to spend my precious time on those. I'm going to let someone else handle those or just find the resources that I need to get answers to immediate questions.
Oh, sure. Play to those strengths. So right now, Pop Goes the Waffle is where we are today. Where is it that you want to take it? And what are you doing toward that end? I know that you've got catering, you've got online orders, you've got wholesale waffles, you've got the food truck and pop-up events. What is the eventual reach that you want to have in the waffle empire?
Well, here's the thing. 2020 and the pandemic has changed all of that. So were we to be having this interview in late February or early March, I was in the process of looking for a bigger production facility. I was on the cusp of signing contracts with 2 very big accounts, wholesale accounts. I think I can say colleges and universities. So we were about to expand into that. And we were really going to be moving towards having a wholesale production facility where I was really ramping up waffle production. So that's not come to pass due to COVID. So we're kind of repurposing, rethinking. I honestly can't answer that because all of the things I would have told you in February, I would have said, well, if we don't end up doing wholesale, we're maybe considering doing a brick and mortar at this point. Or maybe we're considering, but all of those things have changed. Like I don't have a brick and mortar now. I would be hard pressed to consider that with the pandemic. The wholesale situation kind of fell through as far as the expansion. So what we did is we took a step back and we actually started doing more truck events because previously, because wholesale was about 60-70% of my business, we were very selective and only doing maybe one truck event a month, if that. And now we're just doing pop-ups. We did a couple initially and found them to be very successful. So we've gone back to the basics and our truck is named Blossom. So we're just putting Blossom on the road. So
right.
Blossom is being the workhorse. The name of the truck is actually Workhorse. So she's being the workhorse that she was born to be right now. So she's getting us through. I don't know, post-pandemic, who knows what it's going to look like. I would love to be able to pick back up and get back into those wholesale accounts, but that's dependent on colleges opening and kids coming back and all of those things. So,
Oh, for sure.
yeah. So eventually that is what I would like to do. I really like being in the wholesale realm. I really like having my online shop, which I would like to expand. One of the things that's holding me up there, also the pandemic, because we were shipping, but due to all the delays, orders were not getting there in time. So we had to pull back on that. Because UPS and FedEx are like, hey, we can't guarantee these shipments, even though you paid for it to get there in 3 days. So we're kind of in a holding pattern until we get to whatever our new normal is post-pandemic.
Now, how much would you say that you're working in the business day to day versus on the business, growing it, building it, and leading it toward your eventual vision?
I'd say about 60% in and about 40% on. Because of course there is the stuff that has to get done. We have to make waffles. I do have contractors that help me with that, but I'm the one that has to go to Restaurant Depot and get supplies because we're in that spot of not being big enough to have like a Cisco truck deliver things. So it's like I'm the one that's got to go to Restaurant Depot and get 200 pounds of flour, that kind of thing. So the waffle production and making sure the waffles get delivered is between me and my husband. We handle that. So about 60% working on the day-to-day production and making waffles happen. The working in is all the paperwork. It's like all the ordering of the plastic bags and the labels that the waffles go in. It is managing social media. It is scouting for new business. It's talking to our current vendors and what's going on with them, our wholesale partners, to see what needs they have. It's talking to them now in the summer. We're already talking about pumpkin spice waffles for the fall. It's like I've got to start scheduling tastings for pumpkin spice waffles. I know it's August, but we got to get those out there so we'll be ready to go come October.
I forgot that it's almost pumpkin season.
Yeah.
What are some of the most inspiring things you've worked on within the community as you have grown from those very first pop-up events to everything that you've built thus far and the things that you're doing with the food truck and all the wholesale and the catering, all of that? What is the most inspiring thing you've worked on within the community?
I'd say the most inspiring things happened like in March through probably March 8th to early May, because I think for everyone there was a period of like shock, like where do we go now? Like when everything got shut down. And so what we did then is we were able to start donating some waffles to first responders initially, getting those out to people at hospitals and healthcare organizations, which was great. And then after that, we did that for about a month. And I was like, the other side of this is that people are having food insecurity even more so. So we were able to work with some local organizations and make donations to St. Pete Free Clinic and to the Sanderland Center over in South St. Pete. And we even worked with a program in South St. Pete that did a breakfast pop-up. I think we did it twice a month, I believe, for about 6 weeks. So overall, we ended up donating about 2,000 waffles during that period. And that's something that I'm still wanting to continue to do. Like we're still going to get back into working with those food insecurity programs and donating products to them and helping their food pantries and things like that.
Now, what is it that you're doing to build your brand within the community? Something that as far as advertising or marketing, obviously you're doing a lot in the community with how you're working with a lot of the food insecure folks and working there. But is there anything in particular that you're doing to help drive the name Pop Goes the Waffle to help build that brand for you?
Actually, well, you know what? Our biggest thing is social media, and we've gotten a pretty decent sized social media following now. I've spent a lot more time working on it since everything's been shut down for the pandemic. So that's one thing. And just partnering with other people in the community, as far as like our wholesale partners, making sure that we kind of co-brand and collaborate on things. And I think most recently, the thing that's been helping the most is having more truck visibility, because it's a 20-foot long truck. It's a moving billboard. So
Hey,
just
it's hard to
taking
miss.
that places, just taking that places and having people like ping me on social media, like, oh, I saw your truck. Where are you going to be next? So that's really kind of I haven't been doing aggressive marketing, but just by being out in the community and partnering, like a lot of people have asked us to come out and do events. And what I'm telling people now is we're really partnering with other beverage or food kind of companies. Like we were just at Blush Tea. We work with Brea's Coffee. We do pop-ups with them 1 or 2 times a month. We're going to Brick Street Farms in September. We go over to Blind Tiger Coffee in Tampa. So just by partnering with those other food and beverage companies, we're getting connected to their network of customers and their fan bases as well.
Now, I'm somebody who is committed to lifelong learning, so I always like to ask, is there anything that you're reading, watching, or listening to that's helping to guide you in building the Pop Goes the Waffle empire?
Yes, I wish I had time to read more. I do not. But what I have found is, because I spend many, many hours in our production kitchen, I've gotten really, really big into podcasts. So my favorite podcast that I've gone to, and I think I've listened to all of them at this point because I started at the end and went back to the beginning, is
Okay.
How I Built This podcast with Guy Raz on NPR.
Yes.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites, because when you hear these people who have done so amazingly well and you hear their stories and you're like, wow, you almost didn't make it. So it's kind of inspirational. I also listen to Side Hustle Pro, which is done by Nicaila Matthews Akami. And hers is great because as a Black woman, she's a Black woman who left her full-time job, and now the Side Hustle Pro podcast is her thing. So her audience, and she's got varied people that she listens to, that she talks to each week as well. So those are the 2 things that I think are the most business-based. I love NPR. I listen to Fresh Air. That's not business-based, but I just listen to a lot of podcasts. And I'm a true crime junkie too, so I listen to a lot of Crime Junkie and My Favorite Murder. Weird, I know.
Oh, I saw Crime Junkie was just charted at #1, one of the most popular podcasts in America.
I love it. I know. I'm kind of so sad now that I think I've caught up to all of them. I'm like, now I actually have to wait for the next week like everybody else. But
oh, I know.
Yeah.
Doesn't that suck? You're binging on episodes, and then
Right.
all of a sudden there's nothing new.
There's nothing new. So yep.
So you moved here from New England in 2017, but you're not from New England originally. So what's the path? What's the geographic path for you?
Born in Horry County, South Carolina, about 45 minutes from Myrtle Beach, out in the middle of tobacco country. So grew up there, went to University of South Carolina, as I mentioned, followed my husband after college to Fort Stewart, Georgia, which is right outside of Savannah. Back to South Carolina for a while, and then we actually lived in Los Angeles for 5 years. And that was when I got into search engine marketing and worked at Yahoo, which was like a really fun time when like search engine marketing was new. And then I followed him again to Connecticut, where he worked in independent schools in Greenwich, Connecticut. And we were there for a decade, and our daughter we decided to stay there until she graduated from high school. And then we were like, all right, it's too cold here. It's too much snow. We don't want to go back to South Carolina, but we want to be warm. So North Carolina and Florida were at the top of the list, and we just kind of landed where he landed a job, which was in St. Pete.
Awesome. Now, when you aren't making waffles, what are some of your favorite things to do in and around St. Pete?
I would love to say that I'm doing a lot of really cool, fun things in St. Pete, but mostly I'm sleeping. So in St. Pete, that's my favorite thing to do. But pre-pandemic, I'm a big movie fan. And I do even though I do binge watch now, but I really do love the experience of going to a theater. And if anyone asked me, that would probably be what I miss most since the pandemic. So I miss my weekly movie theater trip. I love hanging out on Central Ave, so that if we don't have anything to do, we generally just don't even decide what we're going to have for dinner. We would just go walk around and pick whatever looked good. and wander into somewhere for like ice cream or dessert after. So that would be kind of a weekly event for us as well.
It's so
I'm
easy
bummed
to
I
do
haven't been
when
to
you're
the
there
pier
on
yet.
social.
I'm looking forward to the pier. So that's something that we came after the old pier was torn down, so we didn't see that. But we've been looking forward to seeing the new pier come to fruition as well.
Now, what upcoming events or activities that you have that you'd like to make sure that listeners put on their calendars? I know you have a couple pop-ups toward the end of August and into September. Um,
Absolutely. Yep.
tell us all about where you're going to be.
Okay, so we are. After I booked all of these, I was like, I don't know, maybe I'm in over my head. But we're taking a short break in August, but we come back on August 29th, and everyone should definitely come out for this one. We are part of the Grow on Us program, which is sponsored by Grow Financial Credit Union. And what they're going to do is they're going to run a tab at Blossom, so everyone can come up and get a free Liège waffle of their choice, as long as supplies last. We have about 500 waffles, so I want everybody to come out to that and get your free waffle on August 29th. It's a great program where they're giving back to the community, and we're honored to be a part of that program. After that, we get back to our regular rotation on September 5th. We'll be at Blind Tiger in Seminole Heights. September 13th, we'll be at our home base in Pinellas Park, and that is going to be my birthday brunch. So I encourage people to come out because there's going to be some once-a-year waffles there that you're going to want to experience, starting with the famous shrimp and grits waffle, which most people haven't had unless you're an OG fan who's been here since the beginning. And let me caution people, because people freak out. It's not a waffle like a sweet waffle with shrimp on it. It is cheese grits that I put into the waffle iron to make a waffle. So the waffle is actually cheese grits topped with the Low Country shrimp gravy. It's delicious.
Man,
People love
great.
it. It's labor intensive, so I don't do it a lot, but it's my birthday and we're going to go all in for that one.
Love it.
Yep.
Well, we'll make sure to put links to all of the events that we have in the show notes. So if you missed all of the dates that she gave, you didn't have a pencil and paper handy, that's fine. I will make sure that they're in the show notes for you. Where can people find out more about Pop Goes the Waffle? Website, social media, all of it. Where can
all
we
of
find
it. Website, popgoesthewaffle.com, Instagram and Facebook at Pop Goes the Waffle, or facebook.com/Pop Goes the Waffle. I'm slightly on Twitter, and that is Pop Goes the Waff, WAFF, because it wouldn't let me have all the characters.
I totally understand. I'm beyond your hustle. You are hustle, so I totally understand not having enough characters there. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for spending the time with me today, and I really appreciate you sharing with the Hustleburg audience all that is going on with Pop Goes the Waffle, and have a very nice family trip here in August.
Thank you. My pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
You did it. You just listened to Hustleburg. To thank you for listening, we're helping you reach ideal engagement on any social media platform in a 3-week training available at beyondyoursidehustle.com/3 weeks. See how you can change your feed to serve you, start engaging on social the right way, and create a community around you and your business. Speaking of businesses, if you're a small business owner in Saint Pete and you'd like to be a guest on an episode of the podcast, let us know at beyondyoursidehustle.com/podcast guest. If you got something of value from this podcast, please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review on your favorite podcast player. This is something small that you can do to help us shine the spotlight on all the great businesses Saint Pete has to offer. The music in this episode is Defining Your Dreams by my friend Rhymer Educator. On May 28th, he released a mixtape entitled Quentin Quarantino about loneliness during the COVID-19 pandemic, and I encourage you to check it out on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you listen to great music. Thanks so much for listening, and we look forward to sharing with you how we do business in the Burg.